Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm Haley Deshane. If you didn't hear me yesterday, but I'm the events coordinator at Eco Canada, and I'll be your MC once again today for the innovation stage. I'm excited to kick off day 2 and keep the momentum going from yesterday's incredible sessions. When we launched the stage, we put out a call across Alberta and across the country for innovative ideas, and more than 130 applicants answered. And from that, we built a program that showcases some of the most forward-thinking technologies, research, and environmental solutions happening right now in Canada. Today, you'll see a mix of real-time environmental data tools, AI-driven compliance platforms, circular economy solutions, community-focused climate initiatives, low-carbon materials, clean tech breakthroughs, and a whole lot of cutting-edge science shaping the future of environmental work. Here's a quick reminder of how this stage works. Our sessions are fast, focused, and designed to give you a clear snapshot of each innovation with lightning pitches, short presentations, and a few demos. Because of the tight schedule, we won't have a Q&A period after each speaker, but we definitely encourage you to keep the conversation going. There are plenty of ways to do this. We have a networking lounge downstairs that you're welcome to connect with them in. We also recommend you find them during the breaks and chat with them then. A couple of them have booths. You can find them there in the exhibitors lounge over there. And of course, connect with them on LinkedIn and do that to our online people. Obviously, you can't do any of those in-person activities, but connect with them on LinkedIn, check out their websites, and keep the conversation moving that way. Think of today as another chance to explore, learn something new, spark an idea, or meet someone who might become a collaborator, partner, or problem-solving ally. And most importantly, don't be shy. Introduce yourself, start a conversation, and follow up on anything that grabs your attention. Our presenters are here because they want to share their work with you. So that being said, speakers, I know you guys want to keep the conversations going too. We do have a photography and videography team here, Studio Spiro. They're here and have an interview room. So if you guys want to meet with them after and talk more about your innovation, they will video it and send you the video later. So they're actually just at the back right there. You can see them. They'll take you for interviews if you're interested in. But thank you everyone for joining us again today, both in person and online. And thank you to our innovators who are about to take the stage. So to kick off day 2, we will be hearing a few presentations focusing on environmental data, AI, and compliance intelligence. I'm pleased to introduce our first speakers in this category, our event partners from M2M Tech, Ashok Kaslingam, the CEO, and Rooney Xiong, the Director of Programs and Business Development. In this session, they'll introduce Eco Canada's new AI Opportunity Scanner, a fast, free tool that helps environmental professionals and employers identify how AI can enhance their work, unlocking funding, and building future-ready skills. They'll walk us through personalized AI recommendations, upskilling pathways, and sector-specific insights, all delivered in under 60 seconds with no login required. Please join me in welcoming Ashok and Rooney to the stage for Discover AI Opportunities in the Environmental Sector.
Hello everyone, good morning. Thank you so much for making the time. I actually just wanted to connect to our laptop if we could get some help with that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Excellent. So again, thank you so much for making the time. My name is Rainey. I'm the Director of Programs and Business Development at M2M Tech. And what I want to talk about today is the real-world problem enterprise problem with implementing and integrating AI into your businesses and where the gap may be. And so actually I want to start this conversation a little bit, a couple years ago. If you were a little bit early to the game, in late November, early December 2022, maybe you would have experienced this. The buzz in the office, the popular word was ChatGPT. And so everyone was getting to know this new AI tool. But that was 2022. Now we're in 2026. And so how much has changed since then? And for your understanding of AI, maybe there's a lot more tools that you're using. to have conversations, smart conversations here and there, Gemini, Copilot. But what we want to think about is how AI is being integrated into our products, into our business, and what we do every day in different organizations. And that's what we still find is a gap today in a lot of enterprises. And the reason is being enterprises don't actually know where AI is going to be implemented and how to get that on the ground with a tangible, executable plan. And so there's a lot of AI strategy. There's a lot of talk about having a roadmap, and it takes 3 months, 6 months, or maybe a 1-year map to just get started on that conversation and involve the right people. And the reason why the execution plan is much more difficult to bring to the table is because there's a lack of structured opportunity discovery processes. There's a lack of priority in figuring out which features will bring in the most ROI or which features are most feasible. There's a little visibility in terms of the data and whether a company's data is ready for, is mature and ready for this integration as well. And at the same time, in the environmental factor, what's really important is governance. There's a lot of restrictions and regulatory constraints that each company experiences. And so how do we get all that information and integrate that, make sure that is considered when we are developing an AI strategy or an AI execution plan? And so M2M Tech has looked at, and M2M Tech has now looked at creating a tool that makes that much more accessible, much easier for you to help you get your project onto the ground. And this solution built by our beautiful engineers at M2M is called Intella, our Intelligent Enterprise AI Opportunity Scanner. So a couple capabilities here is that it only highlights high-impact AI opportunities linked with the return on investments on specific features. Our model also assesses the data readiness of publicly available information or the information that you provide about your organization to see which stage of AI integration might you be ready for to get that first project started or that first pilot started. It also will suggest AI architecture that your technical team can take on and be assisted on, as well as a phase executable roadmap for your operations team or project management team. And so what this looks like as an outcome is that there is a gap in terms of the execution plan, but on the technical side, with Intella, your IT team or your digital team, innovation team, can look at the suggested AI architecture structures and a step-by-step deployable plan with your current technology digital infrastructure. For your operations and project management team, your engineers who are experts at what they do in the field, they can understand how, in a 12-week plan or 12-month plan, how exactly is the AI implementation going to look on a week-by-week basis? What key metrics should they hit, and what goals should they set internally so that they can get the project going? And so the types of AI opportunities that would be detected through Intella could be AI agents or workflow automation, or perhaps predictive analysis or forecasting. Something that a lot of companies struggle with as well is document intelligence and reporting automation in safety space and in the auditing space. Compliance monitoring systems, perhaps. Customer service pilots and understanding personalized customer care, and as well as supply chain optimization models. But I want to emphasize again that Intella is not just about detection, it's about the execution. How is that project going to start? What is the next executable action? What is the next tangible task for both the digital team and for the operations team? And this will look like having a 12-week plan, perhaps, governance checkpoints, regulatory checkpoints, a risk assessment, resource distribution, stakeholder alignments for each of the projects and opportunities that come up, not overall as a company, but for each of the projects and specific improvements that you want to make. As well as two really important points I want to highlight is the AI talent mapping. Who exactly do you need in your company? Who are you missing to get this project going? Being specific on that. And also what we realize is a struggle, is a difficulty for a lot of smaller organizations is the funding and resources, financial resources or capabilities for them to get started. And so what Intella does is also scrape the database for funding programs that are aligned with your specific projects or automations and see how you can get support in those areas. So enough talking from me. What I want to share now is the demo from our CEO, Ashok himself, in how you can use our tool. So I'll set that up here.
Thanks, Rainey. Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. We were here last year as well. I see Kevin here. Thanks, Kevin. So what Rainey was talking about is the AI opportunity scanner. So what this actually helps businesses is with what we believe in, which is upskill, adopt, commercialize, right? So you have to first know or first upskill your employee base with all that what is going on, right? So once you have that awareness, you can move into adoption phase. So we built this tool for Eco Canada. So I just want to show you a simple demo, what it looks like. So that way you kind of understand what can be possible for this whole AI adoption journey, right? So that's what we are trying to put together here. So basically, if you go to this website, aiscan.eco.ca, there is a AI opportunity scanner, which is what I just clicked. You can use any of the URLs which you want to try, if you want to try your company URL. So basically, this tool takes your company's URL, right? So website name. So if you enter that, it should give you some insights based on going through the website data, what is the suggestions you can take for your company. So I'm gonna do for a couple of companies, but if there are any suggestions here from the audience, I can take that as well as the third example. I'm gonna start with someone who is known in the industry to start with. So let me start with Canfor. I'm just entering their website URL. So what it does is it goes and checks the publicly available website data. And then what it tries to provide you with is kind of a 90 days, 120 days type of roadmap on, hey, this is, you have said these things in your website, right? So based on this, our tool suggests you can look into or prioritize these type of projects to start with if you have not been thinking about that, right? So that's kind of the idea here. So it's essentially to give the leadership, yeah, this is something I have been thinking about. It's good that I got a validation that this is a priority. Right, so that's exactly this tool is helpful with. So what we really hope for is the AI adoption journey actually kind of expedites or kind of gets a prioritization through this tool, right? So essentially what we see here is the tool has scanned for canfor.com and the opportunities, what is being identified is what you are seeing here. It states about AI-assisted sustainability reporting and carbon accounting. So, so if you see here, go into details, what exactly the tool observed is like some sort of fact, why it recommends this particular topic as a thing which Canfor leadership should look into when it comes to AI adoption. The reasoning for the same is also listed here, right? And then it goes on and talks about predictive maintenance and process optimization for mills, right? So develop models or deploy models and on sensor and PLC data. So yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I would encourage people here to kind of try the tool. I'm pretty sure Kevin and the Eco team would be happy for any of you to try this and provide your feedback. We did get some feedback from some of Kevin's team. We continually try to improve on this as well. Yeah, so that's, and you also see along with the suggestion itself, you also see how much percentage of match. So what that means is what type of prioritization you may want to give for each of these suggestions, right? So it talks about 3 suggestions here. What's the priority the leadership can consider for when it comes to AI adoption within their organization is what this tool is telling. And if you go into the continue part, you get an extended scanner. So that's essentially, you can actually fill in some more details. Hey, this is what I have been specifically looking for. Can you tell me more, right? So that's what this extended scanner will do. So I won't be demonstrating that because it may take some time. So I will go into another example just so that you can all, I know Traces Associates, they have been here last year as well. We met with them. So we want to try theirs and see how that looks like. Yeah, like, I mean, I know I'm kind of out of time already, but if there is any other website, if any of you wants to try, I would say it's a publicly facing URL, ai-scan.eco.ca. So feel free to try it yourself. If you have suggestions, please shoot an email to Eco team. It will definitely come to us as well, or you can definitely straight contact us. Because this is a tool which is part of our broader offering, right? So this is something which we did for Eco Canada, focused on environmental sector, but our point is this applies for any sector, right? So if you are looking for such type of tool adoption for your company, that's also something which we can do. But the point is, try this, see if this tool really helps you. If it does, provide the feedback. If it does not, hey, this doesn't make sense, etc. So please do provide that feedback as well. So for Traces Associates, what we are seeing here is the AI-powered environmental data analysis and monitoring. So that's the primary suggestions we have got. And it also goes into what we observed, what type of things which they can look into, etc. So if you use the extended scanner with the options, you will see what type of grants or things you can also connect this with. Yeah. So with that, I will, because of time, I would like to close. But if you have suggestions, comments, please let us know. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ashok and Rainey. That was an excellent presentation showing us how accessible AI opportunities can be. If you'd like to connect with them further, you can meet with them during the coffee break at their booth in the exhibitors lounge, connect with them online, as they said. You can check them out on their website, connect with them on LinkedIn, etc. But for now, I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Mike D., Associate Forensic Chemist with Montrose Environmental Group. His session explores how statistical tools can simplify large, complex chemical data sets into clear visualizations that support defensible expert testimony, especially in legal contexts where clarity and transparency are critical. He'll demonstrate how multiple chemical measurements can be distilled into intuitive figures that highlight meaningful patterns while acknowledging uncertainty and avoiding overinterpretation. Please welcome to the stage Mike D. with his session, Crunching Numbers, Not Nerves, Making Stats Courtroom-Friendly.
Okay, I wanted to start off by saying sorry to everyone who's missing the hockey game. If Canada scores at any time during this, feel free to yell. Let me just get the pointer out. So, before we jump into my niche presentation about environmental forensics, I want to start with a slightly different topic, how we memorize information. Complex, quantitative information is hard to memorize. So often, if you can associate it with an image, or even better, a story, it's easier to retain that information. So everyone, take a look at the screen. What's the first thing that comes to mind? I do this for every single presentation I do. The crazier the better, that's how the memory works. And by the end of the presentation, hopefully my whole entire story is encompassed in this one image here. But before I talk about what these images mean, I have to give a little introduction on who I am. For those who I haven't met, my name is Mike Derevyankin. I'm the Associate Forensic Chemist at Montrose Environmental. When people hear forensic chemistry, they think of CSI. I always have to clarify, that's not what I do. I am just a consultant that answers one really deceptively easy question. How does one sample compare to another sample? And this seems like a deceptively easy question, but it's a very expensive one. So pose yourself in this situation. Let's say you're working on a $2 billion cleanup site, and you're the expert witness who's retained on the site. If I say my client is 46% responsible, and the opposition says my client is 48% responsible, we're gonna argue for years on end because 2% of $2 billion is a lot of money. So, most of my work revolves around litigation, expert witness testimony, and chemical data scientists like myself, we can work on two different kind of projects. Project one, you could work for the defense. This is usually the big bad chemical manufacturer being accused of malpractice. Or you could work for the plaintiff. Usually that's a smaller scale law firm attacking the defense, and the claim of malpractice is made first, and the data follows that. So what dictates if there's a case? People think it's a simple story. If a concentration is high, above a regulatory limit, then there's a case. But it's actually not that. The real question is, how does this sample look like? What does the neighboring sample look like? What does the source look like? How accurately are we resembling the source? So now layer all this on top of, I have to explain this to a jury, a judge, and to the general public who don't really see this data on a daily basis and aren't really subject matter experts in this expertise. So how do we communicate this complex chemical data in a way that's intuitive, defensible, and easy to understand? And before I jump into the solution to all this, I have to do an analogy. Who remembers going to 7-Eleven as a kid? When I'd go to 7-Eleven as a kid, I would never get one flavor of Slurpee. I would mix them all together, and we'd call this swamp water. This swamp water is a perfect analogy of an environmental sample. It's a bunch of different sources mixed together. In my industry, we call these sources end members. And so my job is to figure out what are the sources in that mixture. And so how do you do this? Well, just like cooking, we're trying to understand recipes based on ingredients. So we can take that swamp water, put it into an analytical instrument, get all the different chemicals from there, and as chemists, we have a great understanding of what the recipes are. And so we can mathematically unmix what were the initial sources in that sample. So that sounds great, and why don't you do that all the time? I do, but here's the challenge. I'm not dealing with just one swamp water. I'm dealing with hundreds or thousands of different environmental samples. So how do I kind of explain this in a way that's intuitive, and then also layer this on top of litigation? If I'm doing this in front of a jury, I'm given 1 or 2 slides, and I'm given 10 minutes to do all this. So how do we solve this? There's a solution. It is called dimensionality reduction. And not to be the analogy guy, but I have to do one more analogy to kind of explain how we read these plots. So imagine you're hosting a scientific party, and you want to understand all the interactions between all the different individuals at your party. Sure, you could talk to some individuals, but you won't really get the overall sense of the vibe and who's there and who's having what conversation. So what's your solution? Well, you could go onto the balcony of your party and then get a bird's eye view of what's going on. You can see all the different interactions. So generally what happens at parties is people who have shared interests will be beside each other talking about the same things. Let's say there's people talking about hockey on one side, people talking about skiing on the other side, and then people talking about the Stampede, keep it Calgary themed, on the other side. So people will be standing beside each other who have similar interests. People far away from each other will probably be different. And the same goes for our swamp waters. Similar swamp waters in these plots will be beside each other, and things that are chemically distinct will be far away from each other. The one thing to note about this plot right here is that if you're looking at it, you can see that the pure flavors are at the very ends. These pure flavors could represent distinct chemical manufacturers or chemical processes. So if an unknown sample is plotting near, let's say, the blue, we can say, well, this sample is more blue than anything else. If it's plotting in the middle, you can say, hey, this is a mixture. And this is just how we're starting to communicate all this complex chemical data into one simple visual. So let's do a real-world example. Hamilton Harbor is located west of Toronto. It's a historically known site for using coal tar manufacturing, steel manufacturing, and one of the chemicals of concern there is polyaromatic hydrocarbons, PHs for short. PHs are a class of chemical. It's not just one chemical, so you have thousands of different pH species that you could hypothetically measure. So the government of Ontario was really interested in knowing how are the chemicals traveling from the Hamilton Harbor into the other sediments. And the general consensus with most scientific explanations is that there's a source-receptor model. Source-receptor means that source, high concentration. Receptor, lower concentration, getting feed from the high concentration. That's a very simplistic way of looking at things. Sure, concentrations could connect, but what about the distinct chemical fingerprint? What about the swamp waters? Are they identical? And that's one of the questions we want to answer with dimensionality reduction. So here's my dimensionality reduction plot from the beginning of the slide, but now I'm layering information on top of it. The color is representative of where it's located in the site. Pink samples are from Hamilton Harbor, green samples are from outside Hamilton Harbor, and these blue samples are references. So these are actual product samples that we've taken to the lab and measured. When I saw this plot, the initial question was, why are Hamilton Harbor samples plotting so far away from the other samples? Well, then I kind of jumped into the data a bit more and I looked at, okay, when were these samples measured? So we collected these samples in 2014, we measured in 2014, and then that exact same sample got retaken to the lab and measured again in 2022. But what we're seeing is that the 2022 samples are very spread and far away from the 2014 samples. They have a distinctly different chemical fingerprint. But this is the exact same sample from the exact same vial measured at 2 different time points. It should have not changed at all. And so, hundreds of thousands of dollars of lab results later, and kind of my conclusion is, this lab data is not good. And then they needed some validity to, why isn't it good, Mike? Tell me why isn't it good? Well, then I did some metadata. I said, who was the analyst who was measuring in 2014? Is it the same exact person? Do we have some human error here? Unfortunately, there was a different analyst in 2022, and every time they measured it, it seemed to be analytically different. Again, they brought me in to say, is Hamilton Harbor connected to Toronto? But the question actually changed. And the question now is this data good enough to actually be presented to the public? And unfortunately, there is a big subset of samples that did not align chemically. And then as a subject matter expert, I kind of looked into the chemical fingerprint and said, well, this is wishy-washy because of this and because of this analytical parameter. I did this presentation yesterday to my fiance, and she told me, hey, Mike, great presentation. What's the conclusion of all this? And I had to tell her, I don't know. Okay, so I came up with one this morning. My conclusion is that it's great to have one visual where you can defensively explain everything that's happening on a site. You might initially come in with one hypothesis, and that might change. Science is about having a hypothesis and testing it. Sometimes that hypothesis isn't right, and there needs to be an intuitive way to explain it to someone like a regulator. And so that's kind of the power of dimensionality reduction and UMAP and MikeMap. So if anyone is interested in what this does, how it's done, I make all my code publicly available, and I'm also happy to do some consulting work on the code. So feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Like he said, if you'd like to connect with him further, do so. The break's coming up. Grab a coffee, chat with him. We have a networking lounge. We have some tables out there. Connect with him on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Now I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Anthea Sargent. Anthea Sargent is CEO of 2S Water, where they have developed a sensor for the real-time detection of metals in water. Her session highlights breakthrough sensor technology that provides automated real-time detection and quantification of metals in water, offering immediate process feedback, improved compliance, and major reductions in freshwater use and operational costs. This innovation replaces traditional grab sampling with continuous monitoring, which helps reduce the environmental footprint of mining. Please welcome to the stage Anthea Sargent with her session, Real-Time Metal Detection for Process Control and Environmental Impact Reduction.
I don't know if that last one was just really tough to follow or I've just been outed as a really big nerd because I thought that was very cool. I'm Anthea Sargent. I'm the CEO of 2S Water, where we have developed a sensor which detects and quantifies metals in water in real time. Why is this a problem? Why do we care? Well, Mike actually touched on a bunch of the reasons why we care. Lab testing is problematic. It's highly delayed. It's a manual process. That means if the operator is different in 2014 than he is in 2022, you get a different data set. This is the go-to alternative right now. So if you want to know what's in your waters, you're mailing it to a laboratory. There's a few single element sensors on the market, but it's a really patchy covering. They just don't provide the data that real facilities need in real time. The only other alternative right now is to build a full wet lab on site. You're spending, $1 million to set it up. You need a PhD level chemist to run it. And with all of that expense, you are now getting your data every 4 to 6 hours. It's still not fast enough for environmental compliance, process optimization, or machinery maintenance. So what's the result of this? Toxic events. So when an effluent coming through a facility, you have a spike coming into the facility, they don't detect it, and it comes out the other end. Now you have toxic chemicals and metals in your water. This leads to fines and site license infractions, and of course, environmental degradation. It leads to machinery damage. So when you have, say, calcium and magnesium coming into your system that you didn't know was about to come through, it scales on your machinery and can cause a lot of damage, a lot of expense, and a lot of environmental impact when we have to clean those machineries. And it's a huge part of process control. So there's a lot of work happening right now to make industrial processes faster and more efficient, and this work needs data. You can't control what you don't know, and right now we don't have a good eye into these processes. This is really going to start impacting things when we start implementing AI systems, because the one part of AI that we don't talk about is input data. I think you guys touched on that in the first presentation there. Yeah, if you don't have the data that's coming in, you cannot perform any kind of analysis on the output. And it's a huge inhibiting factor, and it's why we're not seeing AI rolling into some of the places where it would be most efficient to see it right now. Our analyzer has been created to solve at least one of these data problems, which is the detection and quantification of dissolved metals in water. We connect directly to a stream of water and do analysis in under 1 minute. So from when we take the sample to under a minute later, we have the data result. And we do a multi-element analysis. So right now we're doing 5 elements per sample. So you get a matrix picture. Part of the problem with single element sensors, it's like Mike's scatter plot. You have a data point here, a data point there. They don't necessarily correlate together. When you can take one sample and provide all the analysis on that, which is what they can do in a laboratory with a high time delay, then you get a real picture of what's happening in the water. It's a very different perspective. How do we do it? So we are a plasma spectroscopy sensor. That might mean something to some people in this room, it might not. My complete layman's explanation that I use for my kids is we take the water and we light it on fire and we look at what glows. And based on the light that comes out of it, we can determine what metals are in there. So the wavelength of the light lets us know which metals, and the intensity of the light lets us know how much. This is a well-known process. They've been doing this in the lab for a long time. How we generate that light is a really unique way. We use a method called solution cathode glow discharge, and this is the first time we've ever seen it commercialized. So that's been a pretty fun, cool process. And here's what it looks like. It's just a little candle flame. We create a plasma arc and then analyze nanometer wavelengths of light to determine the metal content. This is what it looks like coming before we analyze it. We convert it into parts per million or parts per billion concentrations of metals. But this is kind of an idea of what the data coming out looks like. This is just a tap water sample that we ran through the machine, and then we manually labeled the peaks. So you can see there's sodium, calcium, hydrogen, aluminum, potassium, all in this one water sample. And what we find is that actually these samples are very chemically complex. So understanding the full spectrum is a very important part of the process. So why do we care? What do we use this data for? Primarily, we're working in the mining industry right now, although there's lots of applications in environmental that we're excited about going forward. So if you're thinking about an application, come talk to me. In the mining industry, effluent discharge is one of the major things that we work on. So legally in Canada and the United States, any drop of water that touches ore must be treated. And it must be treated up to the site license limits, which are determined based upon an environmental study, which is done over a few years before the mine opens. By having continuous monitoring, we can make sure that those site licenses are adhered to and that the water that is put back into the environment is chemically as similar as possible to the water that was in the environment before that water touched the ore. It's a regulatory compliance use case, but it's also very important for environmental care going forward. The other place that we play in the mining industry, which is really interesting, is in these new extractive processes which is rolling into market. The example I'm going to use is lithium brine monitoring. If you haven't determined your schedule yet, Amanda Hall is speaking later. She's got a lithium brine extraction technology, which is really cool. They are taking a process which has historically taken years and are now doing it in hours. When you take something that slow and make it that fast, you need data in order to control the process. We talked to tons of lithium brine operators. Literally everyone has had to build a full wet lab in order to solve this problem. It is an inhibiting factor in what we as a society want to do with mining. And this is a good place to jump on my soapbox. Normally I try not to get too environmental, but I feel like you're a good crowd for it. As we move away from oil and gas, we move towards mining. It is unavoidable. Green technologies take metals. They take copper, they take rare earths. So it's so important that we make mining green. Otherwise, we're building on a false foundation. So in effluent monitoring, we are looking at the mitigation of environmental risk, reduced cost of chemical treatment through optimization of the dosing. So by knowing the input and the output, we can optimize the treatment train, reduce our costs while increasing our environmental or decreasing our environmental impact. And providing proactive environmental care. Sorry, my slides are a little crunchy there. And this is what it looks like in real life. So those two arrows are where our client took samples, and the blue data is the data that we gathered. They completely missed this spike of zinc coming through. Now, that operator knew that that happened. That's a 2-week span where we caught those data points. They, every year, sequester the water for 6 weeks because they know this spike is going to come through at some point, but they don't know when. It's the spring runoff spike. So a very inefficient process to handle a blind data set at this point. Lithium brine monitoring, as I mentioned, where we take a complex chemical characterization. Lithium brines, I've often been described as a little bit of everything on the periodic table plus all the salt you can possibly dissolve in there. So they're very difficult to deal with, and we've had very good success working in these chemically complex brines. So this was a continuous operation that we ran on a South American brine. So again, 20% sodium, just a mix of everything in there. They tend to destroy machinery, so we're pretty proud that we managed to run for a month without maintenance on that one. And of course, reduced environmental risk is our end goal and the mission of the company. We were founded to protect water with real-time data, to protect our environments. We often in Canada are very privileged in that our mining and industrial isn't always right on top of our residential. That's not the case in the rest of the world. If you look in South America, mining and agriculture fight for water on a continual basis. We need to make sure that we are protecting the water that we have. And the best way to do that, we think, is with data. Or the only way to do that. You cannot control something you don't understand. So, and through that, we can reduce our process impact. So reduce chemical consumption, reduce energy consumption, increase water recycling at industrial facilities, and increase input recycling. So reusing chemicals in our process when we've been able to extract them properly. And while we're doing it, we're increasing the ROI. You can never bring in an environmental technology and expect it to actually gain traction unless you also bring ROI. Reducing our environmental impact also reduces our input costs. It mitigates the risk of environmental events and reduces water consumption. So that's us. We are 2S Water. We have a sensor which detects and quantifies dissolved metals in real time. If you have watched this and thought, gee, I know someone who could use that, then please come find me. I would love to talk. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Anthea. That was great. I'm going to leave her contact information up here for those of you online if you want to take a picture, for those of you in the room if you want to take a picture. Definitely connect with her during the breaks and the coffee breaks and the networking lounge. Check out that session she recommended this later today. So, our next speakers are Brian Kabalba and Jared Robertson from VantEdge. Brian is a senior enterprise SaaS and go-to-market leader with over 18 years of experience scaling data and operational intelligence platforms across highly regulated industries. He now leads growth for the Conformii platform. Jared is a customer success and SaaS operations specialist who helps organizations adopt and optimize technology that supports complex regulatory workflows. Together, they'll introduce Conformii, an advanced compliance process management platform for energy, mining, and utilities. They'll show how it digitizes regulatory content, centralizes workflows, and streamlines collaboration through real-time dashboards, automated notifications, and integrated ESG reporting. Please welcome Brian and Jared for their session, Conformii from Regulation to Action.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for your patience. We had some technical difficulties. It seems like the theme for this event is kind of protection. Anthea, wherever she is, I think she left, but she was talking about protecting water. We come from a perspective of protecting our clients, our midstream and upstream clients in the space of compliance and regulatory regulations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at Conformii, and then my colleague Jared's going to join me to go through a bit of a demo in 10 minutes. So we'll do our best to keep on time. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. In today's regulatory landscape, compliance is no longer a back office exercise or a once-a-year audit. It has become a critical, ongoing operational function that directly impacts the risk, reputation, and long-term visibility and viability of our clients. Environmental and regulatory expectations continue to rise. Scrutiny is increasing, and organizations are being asked to prove at any moment that they understand their obligations and are actively managing them. That is the environment that Conformii was built for, not to help teams check boxes, but to keep organizations build resilience, accountability, and operational excellence into how compliance is managed across the organization. Across the teams and the organizations we work with, we consistently hear the same challenges. First, regulatory overload. Environmental and sustainability regulations are expanding rapidly across federal, provincial, and local jurisdictions. Second, the multi-jurisdictional maze. Compliance obligations rarely live in one place. Teams are juggling different regulators, different timelines, and different interpretations, which makes coordination difficult and errors more likely. Third, manual inefficiencies. Spreadsheets, shared drives, and email threads are still the primary tools for tracking obligations. That creates gaps, duplication, and exposure. The bottom line is compliance can no longer be managed reactively. It requires a systematic and defensible approach that scales within the organization. This is where Conformii comes in. Conformii centralizes regulatory obligations, automates the monitoring, and connects controls, evidence, and workflows into a single purpose-built platform, a single source of the truth. It is designed to reduce compliance risk, minimize operational burden, and eliminate the time teams spend chasing documents and deadlines. Instead of asking, do we think we're compliant, Conformii enables teams to work within their environment and confidently say, here is our obligation, here's our status, and here's the evidence. Compliance becomes structured, transparent, and defensible. At the core of Conformii are several capabilities that directly address real-world capabilities and compliance challenges. The newsfeed delivers automated jurisdiction-specific updates on new and amended regulations, allowing teams to anticipate change instead of reacting to it. The library and briefcase provide mapped regulatory environments and requirements with historical and current versions, so teams always know which version applies and where it lives. Conditions and commitments tracking centralizes approvals, orders, and obligations across jurisdictions with clear ownership and status visibility. Calendar and notifications ensure deadlines, filings, and milestones are never missed. Corrective action plans provide structured workflows to document findings, assign accountability, and drive closure. And reporting and dashboards give leadership and the executive team real-time visibility into compliance status and audit readiness across the organization. So together, these capabilities transform compliance from fragmented and manual into coordinated and proactive. In closing, Conformii simplifies environmental and regulatory compliance by giving organizations a single source of truth for obligations, evidence, and accountability. I'm proud to say that it's already being used by some of the largest midstream and upstream operators across our industry to manage regulatory change, redline applicability updates, and audit readiness with confidence. The next step is seeing it in action. Up next, my colleague Jared will walk through Conformii's applicability review, showing our teams manage and view, assess, and manage the regulatory change in real time. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to continuing the conversation and showing how Conformii can support your regulatory landscape. Jared, over to you.
Thanks, Brian. Give me one moment to change the screen here. Over to Conformii. All right, so first of all, thanks to EcoImpact for setting up and hosting this event and having us up here on the innovation stage. We really appreciate it. And in just a moment here, I'm going to walk you through just a mini live demo of the Conformii platform. But first, just a little bit about myself. My name is Jared Robertson. I'm the Customer Success Manager at VantEdge, so I lead a lot of these software demonstrations, full-scale trainings for our customers, as well as further onboarding. In addition to that, with the companies that Brian mentioned and others, we often hear one of the primary pain points or complaints is that regulatory and environment changes happen so often. But it's one thing to know, when these are updating, but it's another to know how it's going to impact the business and who needs to action it. And that's the one thing I wanted to demo using Conformii today, so that people can save time, reduce efforts, and be more in the know with environment regulatory changes. So just shifting over to Conformii here, what you're looking at is the applicability review module within Conformii. And in here, I have my own kind of demo account, and I have a legal registry of different regulatory titles. And just going to Alberta, for example, one of them that received an update here, just for demo purposes, is the Forest and Prairie Protection Act. And as I open this up, you'll notice two things. First thing is the background AI tools in Conformii will pull this Forest, Prairie, and Protection Act and highlight for me the changes between the last version and this current version. So the red line is just the text that has been taken out, and the green text is anything that's been added. And then at the bottom, we can see a whole new 10.1 clause has been added as well. And what we're also looking at is just the sections here, like 9.3, section 10.3, and then 10.1, in terms of what's changed. So it's not surfacing the entire document for your review, it's just focusing in on the items that actually have changed within this act itself. If you're, maybe someone from health and safety or a damage prevention team and environment's not your strong suit, what you can actually do on here as well is you can go and hit this little assignment button in the top right if you want to do it in bulk, or you can go individually with each clause as well. And you can sign it out just so that the ownership and responsibility for these environment changes are very clear within the organization. So on here, I'm just going to assign this to myself. Just have to add a comment here, and that comment's actually just for the audit trail. So any actions that are happening within Conformii are automatically captured and surfaced in your history section, which we won't get into too deep today. But also going through this, now we'll notice I'm assigned here on this section 9.3. Say I go through and do my analysis of this clause, and this is something I want to keep in my legal registry for my organization. What I can do is select from the various actions here. So I'm going to select keep in briefcase. Again, it'll ask me to add a comment, which you can easily export and deliver. So if you need to get this information out for internal, external audits, you can always showcase, we've reviewed these regulatory changes, these environment changes, and this is the information. This was our rationale as to why. And then just below that, we can determine whether or not this is a material or immaterial change. This is basically just stating whether or not this is a change that actually impacts the organization and we need to take a deeper look. It triggers further workflows in Conformii, some of which we won't be able to touch on today in such a short time. But I'm just going to leave that as material change for now. Now we can save that. It'll ask me to assess. That's the other workflow I was talking about, but we're not going to get into that section today. Now we'll see that one's removed, and it's just remaining the two other updates that need our review and analysis in terms of that environment change. So that was kind of it in terms of our mini demo. I'm actually just going to shift back over here to our last slide. And just wanted to thank you for taking the time to take this mini demo with us. We have AI also coming to the platform in 2026. As I mentioned, it's surfacing some of those background updates that we saw, and then we have the workflows to support it, but it's going to be more front-facing to our customers moving forward. So we have that as well coming. And then we also saw with just the applicability review, when you do have to face those constant environment changes, you have the ability to use the red and green highlights to easily identify what's changed. It focuses in on the changes for you within the document to help you save time and stay on top of anything that's changing within the environment landscape. Thanks again, and we hope to see you. The QR code will actually take you to our website where you can book a demo so that if you want to look into some of our further workflows, we can always show you one-on-one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brian and Jared, for that great presentation and demo. If you'd like to connect with them further, I hope you got a chance to scan that QR code, but they'll be around during the breaks to chat more. We are a little over time, but we have one more session before your break. Still lots of time, no worries. So I'm pleased to introduce our final speaker in this category, Stephen Wensley, founder and CEO of Acuspire. Stephen launched Acuspire after seeing friends and family struggle to find work, and that mission has grown into a platform that's serving more than 215,000 users and generating millions of job matches. With over 18 years in software development and clients ranging from startups to the City of Calgary and WCB Alberta, Stephen is dedicated to making job searching easier, faster, and more accessible. In this session, Stephen will introduce the Eco-Canada job board powered by Acuspire. He'll demonstrate how its AI-enhanced matching engine helps job seekers and employers connect more effectively by streamlining job discovery and improving hiring workflows. With thousands of active postings and tens of thousands of resumes in the system, the platform offers powerful tools that connect job seekers to meaningful environmental work opportunities. Please welcome Stephen to the stage to present his session, Lost and Found, AI and the Future of Work.
All right. Thanks so much for the welcome, Haley. It's great to be here. How's everyone doing this morning? Awesome. So, yeah, I've been running Acuspire for, it's been almost 10 years. It's 10 years in November this year, and it's come a long way from the original vision. So wanted to say thank you so much for the support of EcoCanada, for being an early believer. We launched the platform with them, and it was kind of a COVID baby, I joke. It was 2021 we actually went live, but it started, I think, during the lockdowns when we were talking about it, and it just sort of turned into something really big. So Eco came to us and they said, well, before I get to that, I was thinking, how can I wake you guys up? Do I have permission to wake you guys up this morning? Some of you haven't had your coffee yet. How about we all just stand up for a second and stretch? Are you okay with that? Just for like 10 seconds? And we'll do a Calgary wake up, all right? Can I get everyone to raise their hand and do a big stretch? All right? And then we're just gonna wave it around in a circle. What you're actually doing is you're waving a lasso, very Calgary style. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna count, and then when I get to 1, you're gonna throw the lasso and pretend you're roping a calf, or, this is environmentally friendly, so you're roping a kale or a tree, okay? So, all right, ready? 3, 2, 1, and we'll say impact, Yahoo. All right, let's go. All right, so hopefully you're woken up now. So first off, I'm gonna jump into where this started. Eco came to us and they said, okay, we're not a job board. We're a complete life cycle partner. We're a workforce partner to hundreds of employers and thousands of job seekers across Canada, supporting environmental careers from start to finish. So this involves accreditation, certification, training, wage funding, and of course, most importantly, job creation. They really needed mission-driven tech. So technology that was not just job matching, but was a full coverage of everything that they were doing. So we started small, but it's really grown over the past few years. So the recruiter's dilemma, we are always looking as an employer for the right person with the right skills at the right time. There's millions of people potentially in the market at any given point. There are people that are currently employed that are not happy with their job, that are looking for new opportunities. One thing that really surprised me is we actually posted a role in late October last year, kind of early in November, and majority of the applicants were actually currently employed. So what this means is we needed to provide a resume bank that had active subscribers that we're able to push alerts to, and have these people apply very quickly and easily while they're on the go. They might be taking a C train ride home from work. They might be hanging out with their kids at home, and it has to be really, really simple and a good user experience. The recruiter's dilemma is, hey, I'm already really busy. There are hundreds of thousands of jobs active in Canada at any given point. Where do I even start? How do I stand out? You're more than a keyword in a search bar. You have a whole resume, but there's a whole lot of other pieces of your life that are really important to you. So we were trying to think, how can we actually go beyond a simple job board and do a really holistic match rather than just a search? We needed to reframe AI. So the typical AI story that we're always hearing is speed, cost reduction, efficiency gains. Those are all good things. But EcoCanada wanted an AI story that was, about improving access to opportunity, equity for candidates, whether it's Indigenous or youth or other highly barriered sectors that are needing to get access to, fulfilling work at a livable wage. And they really needed sector growth. This is EcoCanada's mandate to grow the environmental sector in Canada. So we were honored to be part of that story. 53% of Canadians are $200 away from insolvency. Living paycheck to paycheck, but finding a good job takes 16 weeks. And this is a huge, huge challenge for job seekers. So we needed AI for social impact, not just efficiency. It was not just the job, but getting access to qualified programs within Eco-Canada. So this included an employer opting in to say, hey, I'm actually pre-qualified for a wage subsidy, or I want to hire an EP certified candidate, or hey, I'm willing to hire an Indigenous candidate. If you're a job seeker, you could check a box that says, hey, I'm an Indigenous candidate, and then as a result, you actually get access to any of the eco programs that might be appropriate for your needs. So this is not just the job board, this is giving you a full access to the full suite of Eco-Canada's services. So the candidate comes in, they get a real-time AI match, they get access to a really amazing job through a wage subsidy through Eco-Canada, and get that experience, and then out comes a skilled professional. At Acuspire, we wholeheartedly believe in this approach. In fact, almost all of our entry-level staff went through a wage subsidy of some form. And all of those candidates that went through the program stayed with us for, for sometimes months, even years, and in some cases graduated into very senior roles in the industry. So this is a system that works, and this is a process that's running at scale. Now, Eco-Canada always had a resume bank. This is a direct quote. We always had a resume bank. We just knew we could improve the user experience. So the answer wasn't just building a job board. It was like, how do we do something with impact? From Acuspire's perspective, we're thinking about user experience, user interface design, technology. I was trying to think, how can we take that resume as a starting point rather than a keyword search and do a holistic match on everything there, and then gradually augment that over time. So we started with a one-button approach. Click and upload your resume. Or if you're an employer, there's a search field, or it's a job title field actually. So you put in the job title, it will actually write the job description for you and instantly match you to relevant candidates within seconds. So with Eco-Canada, it currently takes no more than a few seconds to go from job title to job matches, or from a resume to, from a job title to resume matches, or from a resume to job matches. So this is not a pilot, it's national infrastructure already operating at scale. We have over 30,000 candidates and 1,400 employers currently engaging with the system. It's actually generated millions of job matches to date, and produced incredible opportunities for candidates that otherwise would not have seen these opportunities at all. So a lot of people have asked me, can we create a better future with AI? I was in a session yesterday where the panelists, one of them, actually two of them sort of agreed on this. They said, I don't know if there is any hope. This is a high risk scenario to have AI running at scale in society, but I think we can choose to do things better. We can choose to say, hey, we're going to use this technology for good, and if we don't make that choice, other people will make it for us and use technology in the wrong ways. So what we did here with Eco-Canada is we took their 25 years of expertise plus our AI. We didn't discard that workforce knowledge. We supercharged it together. So with the foundation of their values and their mission, their deep expertise of the accumulated workforce knowledge, we supercharged all of that with our modern AI technology, and then we modernized their legacy, and out came innovation without losing that institutional soul. So as a result, we've been running for several years, and we have much more to come. We've been launching more and more over time. We now have a Career Explorer running with Ocean Alliance, which is very exciting. So if anyone wants to see that, I don't have a demo with me today, but it's a very exciting project, and it will allow you to explore all the careers in the ocean sector in Canada, using AI to match you to upskilling and retraining opportunities. Even if you don't know what job you want, you don't know anything about a sector, you can actually go down the funnel to exactly what your dream job could be. So when technology meets institutional purpose, the result doesn't have to be disruption. Disruption can be chaotic, it can be messy, it can be painful, but it can be acceleration in a positive direction too. And actually the meaning of Acuspire is a focused aspiration, and our logo kind of looks like a little rocket taking off. And so that's the root of who we are, is accelerating in a positive direction for society. So our mission is to advance humanity by connecting people to the most valuable work. And we think people will have a better quality of life if they're connected with fulfilling work at a livable wage. So thank you very much for your time today. It was an honor to be here. And I got 2 seconds left. All right, thanks, Haley.
Thank you, Stephen. If any of you want to learn more about Canada or Eco-Canada's job board, we have a booth just out there that you can go and discuss more, or you can chat with Stephen, of course, directly. He'll be around. We'll now break for coffee until 10 a.m. So this is a great opportunity to connect with fellow attendees and chat with today's presenters. Enjoy the break, and we'll see you back here shortly. Thanks. They're waving. They'll take you there. If not, please stay and enjoy the next couple sessions. Welcome back from the coffee break. I hope you had a great time. I hope you got a chance to connect with some of our speakers and other attendees. But we're excited to dive into our next 5 sessions that will be focused on circular economy, community innovation, and environmental education. So our first presenters in this category are William Tomlinson and Adam Sanson, co-founders of CarbonStone Designs. So for those of you who were at the gala last night, they are the people who made our awards. So it's really cool. You'll get to learn more about that process and see some of the examples they brought and stuff. So yeah, in their session, William and Adam will explore how corporate recognition can align with ESG goals by replacing conventional trophies with custom pieces made from carbon-abated concrete blends, recycled aggregates, and localized production. They'll share practical ways to reduce embodied carbon, improve circularity, and strengthen local supply chains without compromising creativity or budget. So please join me in welcoming William and Adam to present Designing Recognition Sustainably, Low Carbon Awards that tell a story.
Hello, everyone. So I'm William. I'm one of the co-founders of CarbonStone, along here with Adam, our technical design lead. Today we're going to be highlighting our work in the awards and corporate gift space through the lens primarily of one of our kind of flagship models, which is one of our map displays, along with some of the key innovations that has kind of made this product scalable while through like a procedural data-driven design pipeline. So Adam will cover how we turn client requirements and open map data into a ready-to-print 3D model, and then I will be sharing some of the processes and innovations related to the lowered carbon concrete bases.
Thanks, Will. At a high level, making one of these map displays has 3 steps, all of which occur in-house. First, we translate the client request into a digital model. First for the map itself, and then for the final form of the base that it will sit in. The goal at this stage is flexibility, because map display can mean very different things depending on the client or even award. Some want accurate elevation and terrain, and some want coverage overlays. Some clients, like the city or the University of Calgary, want accurate, down to the detail representations of buildings and roads. The second step is when we 3D print a blank for the concrete base, which is sanded and cast in silicone. These silicone, oh, did I miss it? There we go. As I was saying, these silicone molds capture everything. So even a fingerprint on one of our 3D printed blanks will translate to a fingerprint on the final concrete base. Finally, the last step is pouring, sanding, and sealing the concrete, resulting in one of these bases or awards that you can see on my right here. Now, let's zero in on the innovation we have made in the procedural setup for making these maps and awards. This is the core technical innovation on the design side. Instead of manually placing and editing geometry for every new project, we use a repeatable system that can ingest open data. In other words, we can take OpenStreetMap data, elevation data, and road data, and output a clean, consistent print file which is ready for production. This means the same pipeline that we use for these maps and awards can do anything from a simple elevation model to a detailed urban scene. We also built a procedural network map workflow. If a client provides a spreadsheet of tower locations, coverage points, or other geospatial markers, we can automatically plot and align those data points onto the terrain models that you see there. This is important because this automation removes manual work, but it also makes all of the maps consistent across revisions. The outcome is speed and iteration. What used to take days of manual plotting for road sites and overlays can be generated and updated almost immediately. This gives us time to focus on the parts of the process which are really, really critical and more sensitive to subjective decisions, like the visual design, how to balance technical accuracy with aesthetics, and how to tailor the final look to the client's use case. This setup is built with a procedural system in the software Blender called geometry nodes, which have tremendous flexibility in application, and we're really excited to see what we can continue to do with it in the future. At last, we move into production. Both the map and the base are printed on our specialized 3D printer fleet, which reduces material wastage. And that's the design to manufacturing pipeline at a glance. While I'm generating and refining the 3D print files and outputs, the rest of the team is doing what they keep reminding me is the real work on the casting and molding the concrete for the base. I'll now give the floor to William to talk you through the concrete production side of things and what we've done to make that process reliable and environmentally sustainable.
Thanks, Adam. So what we found in the awards recognition and display model space is an environment that has remained relatively stagnant in terms of kind of business development, as many other organizations have moved towards more sustainable operations. So that's where our material selection kind of comes into play here. All of our products use some variety of concrete with lowered carbon emissions. We primarily accomplish this using SCMs, or supplementary cemented materials. These mixes tend to replace around 20% to all the way up to 45% of normal cement usage with these supplementary materials. For us, we most commonly use fly ash, which is a byproduct of the coal power plant industry, as our primary SCM. With fly ash, every ton of cement displaced with the fly ash equates to roughly 750 kilograms of CO2 emissions reduced. In addition to fly ash, our team is also exploring how to use other recycled materials as SCMs in our cement usage. For example, we've been using cement along with recycled paper pulp and plastics. Since the scale that we use cement at is obviously a lot smaller than most applications for infrastructure or construction, we get a little bit more flexibility with how we use cement compositions than many other people working with cement can. So while paper material as an SCM inside of a concrete mix obviously may not be optimal for an infrastructure project, for us, in certain amounts, it can reduce the weight of an award or model that would otherwise be impractical to carry, which makes it a little bit more convenient to do large awards. Furthermore, we use recycled glass as an aggregate in many of our designs. This provides a distinct aesthetic look while also continuing that focus of using recycled materials within our production cycle. So essentially when we're working for a client, we will be discussing with them, we'll pick a cement blend for that given project dependent on kind of what the material looks like, and we will either cast the base, as you can kind of see here, or the entire model out of our cement before kind of finishing up that process. For us, a big thing is the fact that everything has been done kind of in-house. So our entire supply chain is essentially localized to Alberta here, which makes us a little bit distinct in terms of what you can get from most corporate awards suppliers. Most of the awards that you kind of see on a regular basis are typically shipped globally, which means that we can reduce that kind of logistics impact in that sense. So that's really a good thing for us. In addition to that, I think that we find an importance in kind of sharing the materials that we use when we're speaking with clients, because the idea that you can reduce the impact of cement emissions is still not necessarily widespread in all communities. So we find kind of educating on that topic also to be beneficial.
To wrap up, our sustainably designed map displays and awards are really the result of a simple idea: making custom, data-driven physical displays which are visually appealing, fast to iterate, and environmentally responsible. On the front end, our procedural pipeline helps to create print-ready models fast, and on the back end, our mold and cast process, along with proprietary composition mixes, allow us to produce quality concrete bases. This concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time, and thank you to Eco Canada for hosting us.
We will leave these kind of over there for a little while if anyone wants to take a peek at them later.
Thank you, William and Adam. That was great. In case you didn't hear them, they're going to leave their examples and displays just at the back. And If you want to take a look at them or connect with them during the break, please do so, and they'll be happy to tell you more about it. We did have a slight change in program. So our next speaker was supposed to be Justin Chu from Passage to Prosperity. He unfortunately could not make it today, so we will be skipping ahead. And our next speaker will be Brianne Wandler. She is the Prairie's Youth Coordinator with Invasives Canada Youth Eco Stewards Program. Brianne is a certified environmental professional in training, working towards her EP designation. For those of you who want to learn more about the EP designation, you can do so at the Eco Canada booth out there. But she's a passionate environmental educator dedicated to empowering young people and starting their careers in the environmental sector. In this session, Brianne will share how the Youth Eco Stewards Program helps youth build practical skills, connect with their communities, and overcome barriers as they enter the environmental workforce. So please join me in welcoming Brianne to the stage for Becoming an Eco Steward.
Hi everyone, thank you for the introduction. I'm going to be talking about an environmental skill building opportunity. There we go. So now I'm sure many of you in this audience can recall a time in your early to mid-20s when you were applying for positions both seasonal and full-time through your post-secondary degree and post-convocation, where this was challenging. Whether your resume wasn't fine-tuned enough to stand out in a stack of 200 applications or an additional certification was advantageous, but you couldn't afford it. These barriers are defining moments in your young professional life and can be daunting to overcome. This is where programming like Youth Eco Stewards helps launch young green career professionals. So, what is Youth Eco Stewards and what makes it innovative within the environmental workforce? Invasives Canada, who I am speaking on behalf of today, launched Youth Eco Stewards in April 2025, funded by Canada Service Corps. The development of this 2-year environmental skill building opportunity is available to youth between the ages of 12 and 30 years old. Our program offers the flexibility to meet each participant where they are regarding their understanding of the natural world and whether or not they see themselves pursuing a career in the environmental sector. The main requirement we ask each participant to achieve is 120 hours of service, which can be completed at their own pace. A participant has the flexibility and opportunity to complete these hours in 3 months or take up to a year. To entice each participant to reach these hours, we send appreciation packages at the 40, 80, and 120 hour mark. These packages include a variety of field gear shown right here. So they can get a high-vis vest, a hat, a clipboard, and some plant ID books depending on the area they are located within Canada. So, what program offerings are available to reach these hours that set Youth Eco Stewards apart from other programming? We offer bi-weekly webinars and green career panels, funding support for conferences, certifications, and much more. There's also in-person training, courses, and events. We've also currently are launching an naturalist project called Curious Minds, so they can go out into parks and nature spaces and identify birds, other wildlife, and plants as they see fit, whether it's invasive or native species. There's also eco-mission challenges that I'll explore later on, and youth-led research projects. And we're in the process of also launching an environmentally focused book club for participants to collaborate and discuss environmental ideas on a national scale virtually. These program offerings were designed to be cognizant of participants' different skill levels, geographical constraints, and understanding the current gaps in the environmental youth program space. Previously, Invasives Canada ran a successful pilot project called Youth Nature Keepers that was based in a handful of cities across Canada. Participants completed fieldwork such as invasive weed pulls and gathered for a national in-person summit at the end of their 6-month program. The shift away from primarily in-person opportunities was fabricated to reach more youth not only in rural or remote communities, but to allow for participants to have the flexibility to complete these hours when they see fit. No two youth schedules are the same, and life circumstances should not be the barrier in expanding their environmental knowledge or breaking into the green sector. These beliefs are why we offer to meet each participant one-on-one when joining the program to understand their interests and what kind of tools they have at their disposal. Once we've established where they are, we recommend current resources, research different certifications, and materials, conferences that align with their interests to strengthen their toolbox. Here are some highlights that I would like to explore. Some participants may only be looking to boost their confidence within the job market, so our webinar series and resume review sessions are advantageous for them. And here's a snapshot of the webinars we previously hosted in 2025. We've offered an array of green career panels, such as volunteer to career, eco-entrepreneurialism, and job search tips and tricks. We've also brought in Eco Canada to review resumes one-on-one with our participants and hope to do that again in 2026. In November of 2025, we co-hosted the Canadian Eco Changemakers Conference with the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, the Southern Alberta chapter. We also had other notable partners, such as Oceanwise and Sierra Youth Club, to bring all of our participants across youth programming together to network with each other and see what they are doing within the youth project research space. Last but not least, we've also recently went to the Invasive Species Council of British Columbia's annual conference. This was offered both as an in-person or a virtual opportunity, depending on their schedule. So we funded the cost of flights and hotels, etc., for our participants to meet in person in New Westminster last week. Beyond these virtual opportunities, participants may have a cool research or community engagement project that they would like to start, but don't have the funds to facilitate it. Youth Eco Stewards can mentor participants and financially support project costs within reason. Youth project ideas do not have to be fully formed before registering. Project ideation can be a component of their time with Youth Eco Stewards. Regardless, we highly encourage each participant to be curious, as you never know where it might lead. With that in mind, our Eco Mission pathway has seasonal themes that offer 5 stages of development. Participants can complete 1 or all 5 stages. The Eco Mission opportunity is essentially a self-guided project with a bit of structure to get each participant started. They are welcome to complete 1 or all of these 5 stages. These stages are Explorer, Builder, Contributor, Leader, and Innovator. Within this first category, this is awareness and observation, and an example of a project could be photographing 3 fungi species. If they were to progress to the next level, this is hands-on practice with small projects, and an example would be creating a fungi photo guidebook. If they were to progress to the contributor stage, this is community engagement and communications, so sharing fungi facts within like a creative format. The leader component is organizing and leading others. An example would be leading a fungi walk or presentation. And if they were to complete the 5th and final stage of innovator, this is long-term projects and new ideas. So developing a fungi citizen science project that could maybe be linked to iNaturalist, for example. No matter the youth's intent for joining our program, networking is strongly encouraged within their peers. At the end of the day, the time commitment youth pour into this program beyond their current responsibilities speaks volumes to employers, as it demonstrates they are willing to make an effort to advance their skills and experiences. Furthermore, Youth Eco Stewards provides a breadth of opportunities to support youth discovering their passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianne, for highlighting the pathways available to young people entering the environmental sector. I'll give you a moment to scan the QR code, follow them on LinkedIn, connect with them, continue the conversation, of course. Connect with Brianne during the coffee break. She'd be happy to chat further. So continuing with our focus on youth engagement and hands-on learning, our next speaker brings an exciting experiential approach to environmental education. I'm pleased to introduce Aaron Tan, co-founder of MFC Games, a program that uses game-based interactive lessons to help students build real-world skills and systems thinking. Aaron will walk us through a sample learning activity and share how MFC Games is helping young learners explore concepts in energy, sustainability, and problem solving through creative, tactile experiences. He'll also highlight how the program is evolving, reflecting on early outcomes and what's next as it continues to grow. So please join me in welcoming Aaron for his session, MFC Games, Creating Electricity from the Ground.
All right. Sorry, give me 1 second. Let me just test out these slides. Ooh, how do I? Green button? Okay, perfect. All right, hello everyone. My name is Aaron Tan. I'm a first-year data science and business student at Western University. But more importantly, today I'm a representative of MFC Games, an initiative I co-founded with my brother Justin at the start of 2022. So from the very beginning, MFC Games was never meant to just be like a solo project. Instead, it was built on the belief that real impact happens when students, schools, and community organizations come and work together. Over the past few years, this collaborative approach has been recognized in ways that we're incredibly grateful for. In 2025, MFC Games was honored to receive the Eco Canada 2025 Community Impact Award, which you can see over there. It confirms that what we're doing, or what we're building, aligns closely with what Eco Canada strives to achieve, preparing people with skills, confidence, and the mindset needed for Canada's green workforce. This initiative has always been about students learning by doing together. So, what is MFC Games? So MFC Games is built off of one of these kits over here. But what's inside these kits? It's basically only, in these kits, there's just dirt, and using the microbes within the dirt, we're able to generate electricity. At its core, we're a hands-on sustainability program designed to inspire students in grades 4 to 9. So they'll work with these kits, which allow them to generate electricity, and it's not only a demonstration, but students get to build, test, and improve real systems together. What's really powerful about this technology, though, is that it connects students to real-world innovation. For example, organizations like NASA are using MFCs to research for long-duration space missions, and closer to home, wastewater treatment plants are investigating the potential to reduce energy use or even becoming power-generating systems. Now, as we all know, eco-anxiety is growing among young people. And instead of responding with fear or passivity, MFC Games is built around empowerment through collaboration. So we try to emphasize that no one solves climate change alone. Progress only comes from shared efforts, and students are absolutely capable of contributing meaningfully when given the opportunity. So what's actually going to happen is that during our workshops, students will work in small teams to build some of these MFCs. Just as importantly, they really practice collaboration. So this is things like listening to each other, dividing responsibilities, or solving problems together. These are the same skills that are required in scientific research, business, and policy making, and we think that our program gives them a first look into this. So to date, we've worked with over 1,000 students for more than 100 schools across all of Canada. So most of our workshops are done directly in classrooms. However, our largest workshop last year at STEM Innovation Academy had 181 grade 6 students from numerous schools across both Calgary and Adrian come together to learn about MFCs. Events like this can only happen through strong partnerships with schools, teachers, and administrators who all believe in student-led learning. Now, beyond the schools, we've also had the chance to collaborate with broader community events. For the past 2 years, we've run workshops at the Calgary Mayor's Environmental Expo, reaching over 1,000 students from multiple schools. 100 students at those sessions. And these events show show the students that their work matters, and even cities value their engagement. Finally, we usually conclude our workshops with something called a celebration. Students present what they've learned, they share their challenges, and celebrate each other's successes. We also invite industry professionals or professionals in both industry and academia to come and listen and provide feedback to our students. And this simple act means a lot to them, knowing that these professionals are all listening to them. As time permits, we also like to collaborate with educators and organizations at public events like teacher conventions and science exhibitions. For example, this was us last year at the Alberta Teacher Conference. And our work has also been amplified through collaboration with media outlets, including Global News. And here's one of the clips from us from Mr. Gil Tucker. So as you can see, these are some of the students. I think this was one of the classrooms at our own school, Westmount Charter Mid-High School, and they're actually getting to build these MFC kits. They're the ones involved in it. It's not kind of like they're following us. So one of our most meaningful developments in our whole program, though, has been our MFC coaching program. And here, past participants returned as coaches to lead workshops themselves. We provided the supplies, the training, and guidance, but all of the leadership actually came from the students themselves. Last year, we had 17 student coaches facilitating workshops for over 200 students between both Calgary and Edmonton. And some of our youngest coaches were as young as in grade 5. And this program only exists because we listened to our student feedback. So a former participant told us that she would really want to run the project again and help others learn. So this shows us that because of the program, students are feeling empowered to share their knowledge with others. Another thing is that we're also very, very fortunate to collaborate with 2 great faculty advisors from the University of Calgary, Dr. Irene Hermans and Dr. Mark Strauss. And with their help, we've been able to not only grow the program, but also better tailor it to our student needs. Looking ahead, we hope that we can focus more on our coaching program. We've seen the successes, and we truly believe that student initiative is the future of our own program. So from running this initiative, one of our biggest learnings was that all of this could not have been done without financial support. This is why we'd like to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors for their help, especially Eco-Canada for letting us present today. Their contributions directly enable our workshops, materials, and facilitators, without which this program just simply could not have run. Just as importantly, our sponsors help us reach our students and our schools, allowing us to bring real-world sustainability challenges into their learning spaces. By supporting programs like this, they play a direct role in empowering students to engage with the environmental problems and begin developing the skills needed to solve them. Looking ahead, continued partnership is essential, and this is where we see people like everyone here in the audience kind of fit in. Students are eager to learn about real environmental challenges, but they need organizations to step in, share expertise, and support spaces where these conversations can actually happen. So in closing, MSc Games shows what's possible when we trust students with real responsibility and bring organizations together around a shared goal. Thank you for all being part of that conversation today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has afterwards.
Thank you, Erin, for that engaging and creative look at hands-on learning. I'll leave up this slide for a bit so you guys have access to the email if you want to take a picture or anything. And for those of you online, same thing. Okay. We're now shifting to another important lens on youth development, how we prepare students for meaningful careers through real-world experiences. Our next speaker, Shabnam Ivkovic, is the Director of Industry Relations for Cooperative and Experiential Education at the University of Waterloo. She leads the team responsible for facilitating more than 23,000 co-op work terms and internships each year across 50+ countries. In this session, she will spotlight the collaboration between the University of Waterloo and EcoCanada in developing JADA, an interactive AI tool designed to support students in accessing high-quality work opportunities. This partnership creates meaningful value for EcoCanada members by allowing them to showcase their co-op roles directly to UWaterloo students, while giving students access to trusted career-building experiences. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Shabnam for her session, introducing JADA, an AI-powered talent solution.
The green button, correct? Good morning, everybody. I'm Shabnam Ivkovic. I belong to the University of Waterloo. First off, I'm delighted to see some of the work that's happening in educating our very young students who will eventually come to university, hopefully. So thank you for that. You're preparing them for success when they show up at university. Well done. For those of you who've been sitting through sessions, there is a recurring theme of green skills gap. There's a recurring theme of preparing students with skills for the work of tomorrow. I'd like to think we at the University of Waterloo are very lucky, very fortunate, and very grateful to have our, as soon as I can move this, there we go. There we go. To have our co-op education model. So students study for 4 months, that's 1 semester. Then they do co-op for a semester, that's work, real-world workplaces, fully paid supervised work. They're back in the classroom for 4 months. They're out again in the world of work for 4 to 8 months, and the cycle continues. So students, 70% of our undergrad cohort is in co-op programs. They graduate with up to 2 years of real-world work experience. The session this morning talked about not putting all the responsibility of that skills development in higher education institutions. Naturally so, they don't work as quickly as the changing demands of skills needed for the world of work. These kinds of experiences, right from the time they're 3, 5, 10 years old to the time that they come to university, is the real immersion. And this is how I apply the knowledge. These are the tools I use. This is what real field experience looks like. Our Faculty of Environment, we're known as a tech school, great engineering program, great math program, but we also have arts and health and science and environment. Equally great programs. Our School of Environment, Faculty of Environment is more than 50 years old now. Programs from environmental management to sustainability to sustainable aviation, climate adaptation. We have a water institute. I lead the team that develops jobs, develops opportunities for students in these programs. We know from experience that not every employer wants to handle a school's unique recruitment platform. I've been speaking to companies and organizations on the trade floor, and half of them will post their jobs with EcoCanada. They won't go to individual schools. So naturally, we asked ourselves the question, how can we get these opportunities in front of the talent that can use the opportunities so that the companies can get the talent they need? We got some funding from Microsoft to develop an innovation in the AI space. So we developed JADA, which is Job Aggregator and Digital Assistant. EcoCanada came forward as a great partner in saying, we'll connect our jobs board to JADA through an API so that you're not scraping and copying and pasting jobs into a system. The biggest asset of doing this has been able to bring these jobs in front of our students. We also have an environmental engineering program, and for employers who are working through EcoCanada to get access to this talent that they might not otherwise have. I run into enough employers here that say, well, will your students come to Alberta? Yes, yes, they will. If the opportunity is right, if the work aligns with what they see for themselves as a career, our students go all across the country. It's not a localized program. At this point, we have over 2,000 students using this portal. These are quality AI jobs, and here I'll tell you a real story. I had a second-year environment and business student walk past my door one day looking very dejected. He'd applied for a few jobs on our local recruitment portal and hadn't gotten any interviews. So now there's this second-year student feeling dejected, thinking, do I not make the cut? And I asked him, do you know about JADA? And he says, what? I said, great, let's do this together. So the thing that JADA does, because it's based on AI, it takes your resume and matches it to the jobs that are within the portal. We have APIs with BioTalent, who's there on your trade floor, Canada Jobs Bank, Eco Canada, Microsoft. Wherever there's a big bank of jobs, we can hook it on into JADA. It stays with me, this incredible transformation on the student's face. He puts in his resume into JADA, first looks at the jobs and says, these are all tech jobs, don't want this, doesn't align with me, don't want this. And then the resume goes in, and he sees the jobs that filter up. He says, yes, I want to work there, I want to work there, I want to work there. That fundamentally changed not just the opportunities available to that young gentleman, but the confidence recovery, the fact that he could succeed. There are jobs out there. So it's not only about surfacing jobs, it's also about showing to students, you just have to search a little bit harder and you'll find the best fit. We have, the numbers tell you themselves, 24,000 views, 2,700 I intend to apply to this job. So the innovation is doing what we set out to do, bring talent in front of employers, get employers access to talent. Happy to take questions. If you're interested in talking further, I'm around. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabnam. Like she said, if you have any questions, she's happy to take them. We will now take a coffee break until 11:15, so this is a great time to do that, to see all the speakers who were here for this last couple sessions or who were here all morning. Yeah, connect with them, continue the conversations, and we'll see you back here at 11:15. Thank you. second. Oh. Sorry. Perfect, sorry. We'll be hearing about future energy systems in Canada's sustainability workforce. So I'm pleased to introduce Sebastian Chabot, from the founder of the Foundation of Energy Collective, a Canadian charity established in 2004, dedicated to education in sustainable energy and agriculture. He brings a highly practical and execution-first systems approach to addressing real-world climate and workforce challenges. In his session, Sebastian will present Rebuilding from First Principles, a practical systems-level model for climate and workforce innovation. He'll explore how fragmented high-cost approaches can be replaced with integrated systems that combine hands-on learning, reinvestment, and evidence-driven experimentation. The framework demonstrates how capability compounds over time, reducing costs, strengthening talent pipelines, and enabling scalable, grounded climate solutions. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Sebastian for his session, Rebuilding from First Principles, a practical model for climate and workforce innovation.
Thank you, Haley. Okay, so good morning, everyone. The Foundation of the Energy Collective is a Canadian registered charity building an open source model for regenerative living. We integrate education, health, clean energy, and technology into one scalable ecosystem with one goal: to redesign how communities are built from first principles so they're healthier, more resilient, and economically viable. So we're not just studying the future, we're prototyping it. When people hear the word innovation, they usually think a new product. But for us, it's not what we build, it's how we build it. After working across engineering, physical energy trading, and software systems in Canada, the US, and Europe, one pattern became pretty clear to me, that most of our problems are not technology problems, they are systems problems. We've built a world where almost everything sits behind layers of intermediaries. As complexities rises, business grows, institutional confidence and capability erodes, and outsourcing becomes the default. Organizations stop building internally. Instead, they coordinate vendors. Every added layer may solve a short-term problem, but adds cost and maintenance and makes change slower, even when our needs evolve faster. The deeper issue is that once a system is stitched together from multiple intermediaries, it becomes hard to modify. You change one thing, but then 10 other independent systems are going to break or they need to adjust. So small improvement become 6 months big project to coordinate. So over time, the structure becomes resisting to innovation, not because people lack the intelligence to do it, but because a system makes initiative expensive. What nobody talks about is that this also has a human cost. When small changes take months, people stop trying. Talented people shift into maintenance mode, and they do what is required, but not much more than that. Not because they don't care, but because the system discourages agency. And when agency declines, innovation slows. When innovation slows, costs rise and access narrows. So yes, structural drag shows up in economics, but most importantly, it shows up in human energy. So we didn't want to complain about that. We wanted to test whether a system that's designed to restore capability and human agency could work. So our question became, if current systems suppress capability, how can we rebuild this differently? So this is our model. Instead of redesigning everything at once, we chose to rebuild capability gradually and safely within the framework of our charity. Not with consultants, but with universities. Canadian and OECD survey consistently show that 60 to 70% of graduating students report anxiety about finding meaningful work opportunities. Some statistics were discussed in a presentation we saw today as well, and yesterday as well. This is not a talent problem. It's more like a system problem. So we bring university students, guided by their professor, into projects that they really care about to assist them to bridge the gap between academics and industry. So that's something good for them. But of course, for us, we do not give them responsibilities to design critical system for us. That would be reckless. But we begin at the periphery. We give them basic operational tools that every organization needs. For example, design our internal expense management system. If their software fails, nothing breaks. We keep using our existing solution. It's not an existential risk to us. But if they succeed, something much larger happens. Yes, we gain a tool, but most importantly, as an organization, we gain experience in building, and especially confidence in building our own systems. Confidence changes the culture, ownership increases, the mindset shift from we have to buy this to we can build this, and then our capability compounds internally. In profit-driven organization, such peripheral build are difficult to do, could be misaligned because there's performance target you have to meet. But as a registered charity, we operate under different priorities. We do not have quarterly targets to meet. Our mandate is long-term community benefit. So we have the luxury to think that way. If what our students build end up not working, at least they've grown in the process, everybody win, it's a success. But if their application works, it lowers our operating cost, and if it proves comparable to any commercial solution out there, well then that's really icing on the cake for us. So lower operating cost allows us to have more students build more system reduce our dependency further, and you can see how that goes. So we've been tracking everything since the beginning. We don't do this casually. We track cost, time, outcome, system durability. We're not operating from an ideology. We're conducting applied research that's carefully monitored. Our phase one is simple. We have to prove that the system works internally. And if this is proven to be right, our phase two will be to expand to other businesses. We're not trying to outmarket any company out there, but we're trying to outstructure them. So to make this real, we needed real constraint. So we built a real campus. We have 130 acres land in Pritis. This is not white paper. This is a thought experiment. It's not a thought experiment. It's a real living laboratory. What you're seeing on the screen is a 3D model from our SATE GIS students that they've built over the past 2 years with professional drone companies helping them. They've mapped the vegetation density using LLM. We have a computer model that tells us how many trees there are, whether they're healthy or not on the land. They even model the sun exposure if we want to add solar or greenhouse, model our optimal beehive placement, so we don't decide where we put the beehives. The computer model tells us what's the most optimum way to put the beehives. So they're building now in the next year a full VR model, like a Google Street View of the entire land, both under the trees and above the trees. So real land, real consequences. Across this property, we run integrated projects in energy systems, agriculture, digital infrastructure, and educational pathways. So this is where theory meets friction. If an idea survives there, it's because it works. But physical infrastructure alone is not enough. We also built our own digital backbone, our own Amazon web server. So this, what you see on the screen, is our own computer cluster, more than 450 core CPU. It's hosted here in downtown Calgary. Terabyte of RAM. We run our own LLM models. We run our own hiring platform, our project management tool, and many more apps that we built ourselves. And this is not just for us. We're offered to host for free for Canadian charities and universities as well. Researchers can use the system for their own research. And the students, they don't just build, but they build properly. We acquired knowledge over years with, we have pretty good coding standards, cybersecurity standard. Some teams try to hack us and they can't, so this is really good. We have a pretty strong system. Its capabilities at production level. And in here I want to show you an example of a real engineering team working on some projects with us from UFC. We have abundant number of trees on the land. So their project is about designing a system to heat the buildings with the wood in a pretty high-tech way. So they study fluid dynamics, cubic layout, thermal storage. And if you look at them, they really look like professionals. So this is not just a project that they want to have a grade. They know that if they do really well, their system will be applied on the land, will help reduce our cost, bring more students, and so on. So, is this just an ideology or wishful thinking? So no, we already have a pretty good traction on what we're doing. In terms of budget, we run a budget of about $300,000 per year. In terms of capabilities, we work with over 700 students in the past few years on more than 120 projects from many universities across the country. And we touch pretty much all the disciplines, from engineering, software development, biomedical, cybersecurity, food system, agriculture, even psychology this year, sociology, MBA, data analysis, and so on. So it's not a single discipline experiment, it's systemic. And about the impact, we've hired over 30 student terms thanks to subsidies from Eco Canada in the past few years. And we've supported 75 additional students on paid term through our sponsors as well. We provide scholarships for exceptional performance. And on the environmental side, in 2025 alone, we reuse more than 50,000 pounds of material that would have gone to waste from our corporate sponsors. They've given it to us and we've used it on the land to build structures. And this is just the beginning. What you're looking at is something that's already working and growing. So freedom, self-sufficiency, and independence, for us, this is not just a slogan. Their outcome earned through smart work, dedication, and real-world experimentation. If you would like to be a part of this endeavor as researcher, professor, student, partner, supporter, we'd love to connect. Our information is here. And we finish by saying, let's not wait for the world we want to see. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. I'll leave this slide up for a second if anyone wants to grab a quick picture of the contact info. Make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn and be sure to connect with Sebastian throughout the rest of the conference. He'll be available for questions during the breaks, if you see him in the networking lounge or just in the hallways. They also have a booth over in the exhibitor hall, so get a chance to stop by there. Now, shifting focus back to the built environment and the tools helping communities keep pace with rapidly evolving energy codes. I'm pleased to introduce our next speaker, Chelsea Thompson, founder of Invictus Energy Services. In this session, Chelsea will introduce Energy Navigator, a digital workflow tool that translates modern energy code requirements into clear, buildable decisions for all stakeholders. She'll show how a shared platform can reduce work, improve submission quality, speed up reviews, and provide municipalities with structured data to support planning. Please welcome to the stage Chelsea for her session, Energy Navigator, Clear Paths to Residential Energy Code Compliance.
Thank you, Haley. All right. So yeah, my name is Chelsea Thomas, and I'm with Invictus Energy Services. We're located out of Red Deer, but we serve Western Canada. We work with home builders, energy advisors, municipalities, and building officials. Basically, we take forward-focus buildings and turn them into Maseratis for performance. We're a certified B Corporation, and right now we're focused on energy code compliance in the residential space. The Energy Navigator isn't just a tool, it's infrastructure. It connects all of our stakeholders together through a shared workflow for building permit submissions. It's where decisions happen earlier so that permit reviews are quicker on the back end. So I'll give you guys some context since not everybody works in construction in this room. Every new home in Canada has to meet the building code when they're building buildings. We're thinking about plumbing, electrical, fire, structural, but the energy code is a new layer to that. They regulate insulation, windows, mechanical systems, and a lot more. And the goal is simple. We're looking to build more comfortable homes that produce less emissions and cost less to operate. The energy codes are generally a checklist approach right now. They allow multiple compliance paths where we can look at trade-offs between these different components. But that flexibility, although good policy, creates more decisions that need to be reviewed and verified on the back end. So energy codes are evolving quickly. It's not just that they're getting more complex, it's that they're stacking. Alberta currently sits at tier 1 of 5 of the tiered energy code. But looking toward the future, we're going to be accounting for operational emissions, embodied carbon, and energy retrofit requirements. The direction is clear. More performance standards means more metrics and more things to review. The issue isn't the code itself, it's that the systems used to manage it haven't really changed. Builders are emailing files back and forth, and in fact, we're still picking up plans on the side of the highway. Thank you, Highway 2. But builders, energy advisors are working across multiple platforms, and municipal staff are receiving their permit applications in different formats. The process was built for simple checklists, not for analyzing deeply energy models, or for building science review, or for verifying that what's actually built matched the initial design in the first place. Oftentimes, especially in Alberta, we're finding that plans, energy design, and what's constructed don't align because changes are happening late in the process, and homeowners don't necessarily get what they intended on building in the first place. Before quality, comfort, and climate outcomes, there's already friction built into the system. Another thing that I found out recently is that builders are not necessarily choosing the most cost-effective paths to meet minimum code. Currently, the energy decisions are happening too late in the process when costs could be optimized earlier on. By the time energy analysis is complete, designs are locked in, materials are chosen, and assemblies are already selected. Homes may meet code, but not in the most affordable way. And in fact, by just switching pathways, we can save a homeowner $5,000 on a typical home. This isn't about people doing a bad job, it's that the system was not built for today's reality. So looking toward the future, and actually looking in current jurisdictions where they're already hitting higher energy tiers, such as BC at step 3 and Saskatchewan at tier 2 in some areas, this is why this moment in Alberta matters. Acting now will avoid major disruption later on. Municipalities don't want to reject or delay permits. They want to focus on red tape reduction and speeding up approvals. Rejections increase administrative workload, slow housing delivery, and frustrate everyone involved, including myself. This is why I built the platform in the first place. So as energy codes stack, review effort stacks with it. I'll give you an example. I was speaking to an inspector that was working in BC at step 3, and he said for every house that went through, right now it would take him an hour to review, but the specific energy code portion added 8 hours of review time. He's following up across multiple parties and sending the projects back to be redesigned, or at least make sure that what's actually constructed is meeting code, because there was changes along the way. And what this means is he's using more staff in his office, more resources, there's higher municipal costs, and the permitting fees increase. And rural municipalities, where we work quite a bit here in Alberta and Saskatchewan, are feeling the pressure first. They have limited staff, they're not necessarily experts in energy code compliance, and some have told me they'd like to offload the energy review completely. And so that's why we've developed the Energy Navigator. It addresses all of these problems. We have 4 major components. The first is intake, where decisions are made, and it's a decision tool built for home builders. We can analyze the cost associated to different upgrades, the risks associated to those upgrades, and everything is translated from technical code to plain language. It's a predictive tool as well. It gives builders real-time feedback before energy modeling takes place. This gives us, once they give us the specifications of a project, using historical data, we can build confidence early using machine learning, and we can tell them right away if they're gonna meet code and the best way to do it. Alberta's already moving toward expedited permitting pathways. Automation and risk-based review are already happening in places like Edmonton. This is where we can target our resources. We can actively think how confidence is established in the permitting process. And the Energy Navigator builds upon that momentum. The next portion of our tool is the automation. So we're able to take all the intake information and flow it through our partner, which is Volta Research Group, through their modeling system. This makes sure that we are not duplicating the work and manual data entry is limited. We have more time to optimize the buildings and increase its performance at a lower cost. Next is quality validation and assurance. Once the building permits have been once the modeling has been completed or a different pathway has been chosen, we can pre-review those applications using AI-supported validation. This means that the inspectors can focus on their professional judgment, not do data cleanup. It's easier to verify and produce shorter review times. And lastly, this leads into the municipal portal. Currently, only maybe 10 to 15% of all buildings that are modeled in residential space is compiled and aggregated. We're missing about 80 to 85% of those buildings and how they're actually constructed. So the municipal portal provides us information on the pathway that was chosen, the tier levels that have been achieved, emissions intensity, air tightness, and a ton of other metrics that the municipalities can use as they move forward. We have three major benefits. First, like I said, faster approvals without lowering standards, and timelines can become predictable even as energy codes increase in complexity. Second, reduce workload through automating consistency checks, and the staff can focus their time where it's needed. And third, consistent housing and energy data generated through normal municipal workflows can be compiled for long-term planning without administrative burden. In fact, I was speaking to one municipal representative recently, and he said, this is exactly what the industry needs, a more comprehensive tool to guide builders, inform safety codes officers, and inform municipalities so that we can work on the same data sets and grow together. So we want better homes, we want more affordable houses, we want faster approvals. And the energy codes, they're just not the problem. It's outdated workflows. So if we can modernize the compliance process, we can unlock faster approvals and create better housing outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea, for that great presentation and for showing us how Energy Navigator is streamlining the path to modern code compliance. Be sure to seek her out throughout the rest of the conference and keep the conversation going. Our next speaker, Michael Soreda-Moore, is the founder, president, and CEO of Spherical Rotors, a Calgary-based clean technology company developing a new class of patented valveless rotary compressors, expanders, pumps, and control valves. His platform is designed to operate under the extreme and fluctuating conditions common in gas systems, enabling zero emissions operation while recovering pressure drop energy that is normally wasted. In this session, Michael will explain why converting gas pressure drops into dependable electricity is far more difficult than it seems, and how Spherical Rotors is addressing the key failure points that have been held back by previous approaches. Please join me in welcoming Michael to the stage for his session, Zero Emissions, Power from Gas Pressure Drops, Why It's Hard and How We're De-risking It.
Let me just figure out how to go to the next slide here first. Perfect. Hi, I'm Michael Saridamore, founder and CEO of Spherical Rotors. Can we get a quick show of hands if we have any mics in the audience? I was just making sure my volume is good, but thank you for helping. Regulations are increasingly pushing operators away from venting natural gas to operate off-grid sites. This is accelerating the shift toward electrification. But electrically actuated valves often require hundreds of watts of power, typically generated by burning gas or propane at a very low efficiency in thermoelectric generators. These are known in the industry as tags, and they can result in very high fuel costs and emissions. Sometimes solar battery systems are used for a portion of the year that has sufficient sunlight. This can reduce operational costs and emissions. This compromised approach allows for the reliability of gas-fired generation while mitigating risks of theft, vandalism, and cloudy or smoky periods. What's interesting is a lot of these sites have an untapped source of potential energy in the form of gas pressure drops. Think of how a hydroelectric dam converts water pressure to electricity. The same can be done with gas pressure drops if you have the right device. Initially, we plan to implement our device in parallel to existing gas pressure drops, routing some of the flow through our unit, spinning our rotors and an attached motor backwards, becoming an electrical generator. Then we return the flow to the gas pipeline system. Since there's no need to burn or vent any gas, we expect to significantly reduce operational costs, and in the case of many new off-grid sites, reduce upfront costs. Importantly, we do not ask for changes to the process system. We don't require control valves to maintain near constant conditions for generating power. In fact, one of our longer-term goals is to actually replace some existing control equipment. Conceptually, we are a bit like a screw compressor or expander with adjustable slide gates for varying flow and pressure ratio control, except we're rated for high pressure, expect high efficiency, and high adaptability. Our circumferentially positioned slide gates vary the size and location of openings right at the spherical surface. That's where the gas enters and exits the chambers. Our gates are positioned with a self-locking worm drive system so that they can actually hold position without requiring electrical power. This also avoids hunting during operation. The gates can be positioned to throttle and eventually close off flow, shutting flow like a control valve. Clearance volume is the portion of gas that doesn't get pushed out in compression mode. It expands back and it has to inefficiently be recompressed. So we actually have near zero clearance volume even while operating our gates, which enables high efficiency in both compression and expansion modes. With these technical challenges resolved, we progressed to building a couple of our rotors. We assembled them at varying imperfect locations to confirm that they wouldn't bind during operation. With that validated, we progressed to compression mode testing, where we're independently verifying correct assembly, expected frictional drag, and also sealing performance. This will give us the confidence to progress to power generation mode, using nitrogen at pressures that mimic those found at natural gas sites. Expansion mode's the reverse process of compression mode, where a small volume is filled with high pressure gas, and that provides torque to spin our rotors and a motor, which becomes an electrical generator. These images seen on screen are an example of positive displacement mode. This mode of operation is ideal for us when high efficiency is required, but only very small gas pressure drops are available. For example, producers with multi-well pads often introduce a small gas pressure drop to send separated liquids down the pipeline. As reservoir pressure decreases, both the upstream pressure and the desired pressure drop can decrease noticeably over time. As flow decreases, it becomes especially important to maintain high efficiency without introducing losses from control equipment just to generate the required power. At high pressure drops, the problem changes. We can actually transition to dynamic expansion mode. This is like an open flow or turbine style mode of operation. Our focus for this first product is to generate just enough power to operate off-grid sites. This mode allows us to divert more flow through our unit, which becomes a major advantage. Natural gas becomes cold after large pressure drops, so upstream line heating is often done to mitigate liquid formation and freezing risk. We're initially generating power in a parallel loop, and generating power from the gas results in a relatively lower temperature, so it actually introduces additional freezing risk in that loop. Conceptually, we can actually balance the torque across our rotors to safely allow more flow through the unit to avoid overspeeding or oversizing the generator. When flow is high relative to the power generated, temperatures actually approach that of what conventional control equipment would do. So remarkably, by allowing more flow through our unit in that parallel loop, we can completely mitigate the freezing risk, which means it's important because then we don't have to increase upstream line heating, which is a major challenge. Compared to conventional equipment like compressors and expanders, we're trying to incorporate all of the strengths without any of the weaknesses. So turbine style equipment, it's inflexible and it's sensitive to liquids, but it's very good at allowing high flow, which is what we want sometimes. Reciprocating piston cylinder devices, as you see on screen, they're notoriously unreliable when they're operated 24/7. They have premature valve failure, packing gland wear, they have large masses that accelerate back and forth, and they leak the working fluid, which is often natural gas. However, they're very good at handling high pressures, and they're often used in industry where screw and scroll equipment is unsuitable. Screw equipment, that middle one down there, has high clearance volume, so it suffers from major efficiency penalties from that. And it's also pressure limited. Mechanically, it can't do high pressures reliably. So our loading is largely compressive like a recip, and the portion that introduces bending is very minimal because we can incorporate our support bearings very close to those gas pressure loads. Think of how well you can manage deflection if you jump at the base of a diving board compared to the end of a diving board. Valveless rotary screw compressors are reliable, flexible, and they're inexpensive, and they're zero emissions operation when they're oil flooded. So we can do this. However, in this first application, we're actually incorporating the generator inside of the pressurized housing. Then we can rely on very inexpensive, robust, static O-ring seals to prevent leakage. This dry operation eliminates dynamic shaft seals and mechanical overhead. It reduces that. Scroll equipment, the last one on screen there, it has near zero clearance volume and high efficiency at the design conditions, but it has a fixed geometry that has limited adaptability. It limits its adaptability and efficiency across changing conditions. Our near zero clearance volume geometry, highly adjustable slide gates, and bearing support location very close to the load positions us well for zero emissions operation across widespread compressor, expander, pump, and control valve applications. We approach our remaining lab and pilot testing with enthusiasm and confidence that this product and those that follow will usher in a new era of pressure, power, and heat for savings and sustainability. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Michael, for that fascinating presentation and for giving us a clear look at the challenges and breakthroughs in zero emissions pressure to power technology. If you'd like to connect with him further, be sure to meet with him at lunch. Up next, we have Baruz Himami, founder and CEO of Energy Cycle Canada. Baruz is an entrepreneur and chemist with a DBA whose career spans consumer products, computer technology, and the oil and gas sector. His long-standing commitment to innovation and environmental responsibility ultimately led him to the hydrogen field, where he now focuses on advancing practical, sustainable energy solutions. In this session, Baruz will introduce Energy Cycle Canada's low capex, locally deployable process that converts plastic waste into high-value outputs, clean hydrogen, and carbon nanotubes. By transforming a major waste challenge into advanced energy and materials, this technology offers a compelling pathway towards circular economy solutions and sustainable industrial impact. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Baruz Himami for his session, Transforming Plastic Waste into Hydrogen and Carbon Nanotubes, a Practical Circular Economy Solution.
Thank you. What a title, Waste to Wealth. I wish I'm not a friend of Trump, who would steal, the title and trademark it. The journey started with churning plastic, not just the plastic waste, the whole landfill trash. And as you know, in Canada, every month, government of Canada spends more than $800 million on the churning on the landfill. In all over the world, we are estimating 80, 90. Some places like Japan is less landfill, and with all the technology out there, all the trash is going to landfill, and is some places like Ontario, we are going to be out of landfill, and they have to find another place to dig those trashes. I have a good friend and co-founder. He's Australian, good friend of mine, and he came up with the idea to turning plastic waste to something like a hydrogen. The concept, we proof of have a concept, and since before COVID, and for me, to turning not just the technology, not just the chemistry, to turning to the business, and for this purpose, we focus on dealing with just the landfill. The rest of the plastic they do recycling, and for us it's just a recycling, not just a recycling, it's upcycling as well. The technology, it's very simple, very easy, and the way that we turn it to suitable or doable. Because my purpose was the sustainability of the process. Like we're using very, very low emission and almost zero emission, and no resourcing like on water or electricity. The technology. It's a microwave with a special catalyst. We spend in the last few years, almost 2,000, times, testing to get the ideal, the hydrogen and the nanotube. Hydrogen, the people the hydrogen is very famous these days, but we're not ready because the molecule of the hydrogen is very small and tiny and escape it. But the purpose of our hydrogen is the blending with the natural gas. The whole system is, we have centralized unit close to landfill and decentralized module to turning just the plastic to hydrogen and carbon nanotube. The carbon nanotube, the hydrogen it's a business that it's a trend, or it's because of the environment we can claim on it, but the core business is the carbon nanotube. Carbon is something it's very I should say mulish. It's a very stubborn. Two carbon can do anything, any different type. But the way that we're engineering those carbon for the purpose of the battery application. The carbon that carbon nanotube, it's special for the battery purpose, and that's a core business. The whole unit is very simple. We put a centralized unit in the landfill. We're already in the process with a small community, and we get the feedstock. We prepare a feedstock, which is a plastic for our module, and the module is like we put outside this building, and the hydrogen blends with the natural gas. The protocol for the hydrogen blending with natural gas in North America is 20%. We are allowed to do that, and all those big players, they started with 3% and 5%. Atco recently started jumping to 15%. It's not commercialized yet, but we can doing it till 20%, as the protocol says. But our module is aiming 5 to 10%. The other thing I can to mention on the process, there is lots of technology out there, but all of them they are like a 10%, 20% of the landfill. And believe it or not, there is lots of places that are out of landfill. They don't have it. They have to ship it. Like in Ontario, they claim, they said 2035 we are going to be out of landfill with the 30% exporting garbage to state. With this conflict, they said we don't know, maybe 5 years. And then the huge the impact on the environment and to ship some places to find it in the north. To ship those over there. There's a lots of story about the landfill and the solution that we came up was with the low capex. Like I said, there's lots of technology, but they require high capex to do that. With not that efficient, but just because of the get rid of the landfill and a little bit on the environment. But our solution is very low capex and customized for the small community. The community, any base with the 3,000 people, they have enough garbage to running, our module, and we can make it, profitable. This is another thing, for the technology. It's not just the technology. It's not just the chemistry or innovation. It's the way that we can, to manage it and to make money out of it. Because, like I said, in all over the world, more than 80% they're not doing something good, and except Japan it's a very good place. The recycling part, we got the Bichet strategic partner is already recycling running facility, and we are now merging together, and it's good, very suitable. The first pilot is in Calgary, and we are hoping that the other one is already got the letter of support from 2 county in Ontario. Probably after here we got to go there to deploy our module. And I think I covered everything. And if you have any question about the carbon, about the hydrogen, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Baruz, for that fascinating look at how circular technologies can turn plastic waste into high-value energy and materials. If you'd like to connect with him, be sure to do that at lunch during the lunch break. I wanted to let you know we did have a change in agenda. So unfortunately, Chris Zavlanos from Rigor Talk could not make it today. But luckily, Derek Leahy, who those of you who were here yesterday, he was unable to make it, but he's back, he's feeling better, and he's ready to end it off today. So for our last speaker, we have Derek Leahy, Executive Director of Rural Routes to Climate Solutions. Derek brings more than a decade of experience as an organizer and communicator working at the intersection of climate action and food security. His career has taken him from national organizations like Food Secure Canada to respectable publications, and now to leading innovative programs that help rural communities adopt climate solutions. His session explores how placing community members at the center of decision-making can accelerate climate solutions in Alberta, drawing on Rural Routes to Climate Solutions flagship initiatives. Rural Route to Climate Solutions collaborates with producers, Indigenous knowledge holders, and rural residents to develop strategies grounded in local realities and geographic context. By empowering people with lived experiences on the land to lead creation, testing, and scaling of solutions, these projects foster trust, build capacity, and strengthen community leadership. Please join me in welcoming Derek Leahy to the stage for Climate Solutions Rooted in Rural Alberta.
Green buttons forward and red's going back, I heard. Take that as a yes. Yeah, sorry I wasn't here yesterday. I came down with a bit of a cold, so I spent most of the day just feeling sorry for myself and watching Battlestar Galactica. My innovation I'll be talking about, or our innovation, it's less on the tech side, it's more of a social innovation. So as was mentioned, my name is Derek Leahy. I'm the Executive Director of Rural Routes to Climate Solutions. We got started back in 2017. At a time where rural communities felt a little bit left out of the climate conversation. A lot of the climate conversation at the time seemed to be like heavily focused on urban areas. A lot of people live there, so in some ways it makes sense. And also for agriculture producers, usually in climate conversations, they were on the bad news side of things, like all the things that agriculture just couldn't get right when it came to climate change or biodiversity collapse, et cetera, et cetera. Things have improved since then, so we were created to create a space for learning and capacity building around climate solutions that made sense for rural Alberta. And for us it was really important that, yeah, the climate issue was part of what was being addressed, but we firmly believe that even if climate change wasn't a thing, a lot of these solutions we were talking about specifically in agriculture, we did do some in renewable energy at one point, they had very concrete benefits for rural communities. So in our approach when it came to rural climate solutions, we focused on what most policy wonks call like the co-benefits of implementing a climate solution and spent less time talking about reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. So like I said, I've been doing this since 2017, and honestly, I haven't actually talked about climate change once. Not that I don't believe it's a thing or anything like that. Okay. So we're on a mission to empower rural communities, mainly in Alberta. We do have ambitions of expanding across the prairies with climate solutions. Now, how we go about doing this is by storytelling. So for a while there, we invested a lot of resources in our podcast. Last couple of years, we haven't done a heck of a lot, but it's still out there if you want to listen to my voice a little bit more. The other two ways we empower folks with climate solutions in rural communities is creating spaces for building community connections, especially if it's people that don't always talk to each other. I'll get into that in a second. And another big thing we do to empower folks with climate solutions is generate system solutions with the communities they're meant to impact. So as I mentioned before, the innovation, it's more of a social innovation. So it's putting communities right in the center to identify and build out the innovation pathway to like launch or scale a climate solution. So with these participant-driven projects we use, like a lot of people refer to them as social innovation labs. We're not really experts in social innovation labs, so I try and stay away from that language, but we are, I'd like to say, are becoming experts in participant-driven projects. So in these projects, the participants, they're kind of like the rocket fuel. They're the ones that are coming up with the ideas. They're the ones that are moving things forward. Us as the not-for-profit that's hosting the space, we're more kind of like the mechanics and designers just trying to keep the ship going. And in a lot of ways, and I don't know, maybe I'm aging myself because I don't know if they make these kind of books, it's a bit of like a choose-your-own-adventure novel. If this is the mission here, you can figure out a different pathway to get there. Now, the problem that we're trying to solve for, most people are probably aware of the fact that like Alberta, the prairies, when it comes to like national for support for renewable energy or climate solutions, we tend to be a little bit lower than the national average. It's not as bad as some people think. For example, that moratorium we had against or on renewable projects a couple years back, about 57%, I believe, of rural Alberta was actually not in favor of the moratorium. So it's not like we're all against those kind of things out here. Another problem that we're trying to solve for, just like the return on investment on some of these climate solutions in agriculture, it can take a bit of time. Maybe some people have heard of regenerative agriculture with something like that. Like one of the latest podcast episodes we recorded, the professors we were talking to mentioned could take about 9 years to get a return on investment there. There's also some knowledge gaps around that, and also when it comes to some of the engagement we do with Indigenous communities. So primarily right now we're working with members of the Blackfoot Confederacy, so more in southern Alberta. You have some issues that it was a people that was forced into agriculture because of colonization. So a lot of different problems we're trying to get around with these different participant-driven projects. Now how it works, it looks a little bit like this. So first thing we do when we put together a participant-driven project is trying to figure out who we need in the room that doesn't always get into the room together. So what I mean by that, very first social innovation lab we set up, or participant-driven project we set up, the regenerative agriculture lab was just with farmers and ranchers. We thought that was the best way to do it. That lab then came back to us, said, what are you, nuts? We're only like 2% of the population. We need the rest of the agri-food value chain to get involved. So then we started recruiting folks in governments, people who are in retail, et cetera, et cetera. So you get those folks together to do some exploration, saying, okay, well, there's this thing called regenerative agriculture or agricultural climate solutions, whatever terminology you want to use, that we think as an organization is pretty cool. We think it has benefits for communities. What do you folks think about it? And how can we go from something that's practiced by a few to practiced by many? So we have that exploratory conversation, come up with a vision for the participant-driven project. Then the next stage from there, we go into identification, like, cool. If there's only a handful of folks in Alberta, I'll just use that example because it's what we know best, that are using these agricultural climate solutions or practicing regenerative agriculture, what needs to be put in place? What are the system solutions to make it easier for this agriculture system, if it's regen or agricultural climate solutions, to go from practice by a few to practice by many? So then we start generating different system solutions just to make that a lot easier. Then the next step from there is jumping into building these things out once they've been identified. So this is a bit of the trickier part of the process because you're working with volunteers and there are a few different ways you can handle it or manage this particular one. What we've done is some cases we try and recruit folks who are already kind of working in that space. It's like part of their job to do it. Or we start creating projects to support the system solution. So we're running 3 right now. One's around knowledge dissemination, so it's an online resource hub. And another one's also giving agriculture producers a chance to try out some different practices through a polyculture trial. So once you built out all that systems infrastructure, hopefully then you get to your impact. Now, both these labs, the key first step for most of these labs is creating that convening question. So for the regenerative agriculture lab, we got people together and saying, listen, we can't answer this on your own. How might we grow Alberta's regenerative agricultural system in a way that preserves its integrity, yada, yada, yada. Then they try and address the question, come up with those system solutions, and the exact same thing with the Siksikaitsatippi agriculture project, or Siksikaitsatippi means Blackfoot Confederacy. So how can regenerative agriculture align with Blackfoot ways of knowing to help determine which climate solutions make sense on nation for those particular Blackfoot communities? And yeah, that's more or less, like one of the benefits I should mention about the process, like it's not easy to do. Like a lot of people, working with passionate people, it has upsides, it has downsides to it. But the nice thing is when you get folks in the room that kind of represent either the agri-food value chain, in our case with the Six Decades of Tippy Agriculture Project, we're specifically recruiting folks who are interested in land stewardship on Blackfoot territory, is you get validation. You're constantly like testing out these ideas, and these folks are building out those ideas. So the hope, once we actually get to that impact part, we've already validated these solutions that make sense for the entire system that we're trying to change. So that's us.
Thank you, Derek. And with that, we officially conclude the very first Eco Impact Innovation Stage. What an incredible lineup of ideas, solutions, and forward-thinking technologies. A huge thank you to all of today's presenters for sharing their expertise and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the environmental sector. It has truly been a pleasure to host the stage and showcase the innovators who are helping shape our collective future. We also want to extend our sincere appreciation to Magnet, our innovation stage partners, and to the Government of Alberta for their support in bringing this new initiative to life. Your partnerships made this stage possible. So please join us for lunch in the ballroom where you can connect with fellow attendees and innovation stage speakers. We hope to see you back at 1:30 p.m. for our final workshop of the day, From Data to Decisions, MRV for Greenhouse Gas Emissions. That will be over in the other rooms. It's an invaluable opportunity to deepen your knowledge and gain practical skills in greenhouse gas measurement, reporting, and verification. So with that, enjoy your lunch, enjoy the conversations, and thank you again for being part of this inaugural innovation stage. Thank you so much.